Greetings, this is your host Lavinia Lasani, and in today's video we are going to be continuing on chapter 10 of the book Snowblind by author Cassie Miles. So grab yourself your cup of tea or coffee or hot cocoa, it's still winter, and join me. Welcome back. So last week we saw that Sasha stupidly went after the killer. We just know it's a dark shadow, we don't know who it is yet, so I'm just assuming it's a killer. She went after him, technically went missing, but then again she was still in the environment around the jeep, so she wasn't really that far, but still she went there without backup, without any weapon, because she just assumed that she could just run back to the truck or jeep, whatever you want to call it. She just assumed she could run back to it and didn't even think about a bullet flying towards her. So that happened, and then chapter 9 ended with Sasha and Brady inside of a cave. It's completely dark inside right now, and it's so quiet that they can hear their own heart beating. I don't know what's gonna happen in chapter 10, so we're gonna go dive right into it to see what happened next. I'm thinking there's going to be some emotional stuff happening to develop the characters' emotion, to get them to connect with each other even more, so that we can get the role bowling in their own love story rather than just concentrating on the crime and who the killer is, or the evidence that they were trying to find by going to the ranch. This is where the cave is. The ranch where there was the ATVs, that's where they were supposed to go. So I'm assuming chapter 10 they are going to be going to the ranch, either at the end of it or in the middle of it. So let's see what happened next. With the impenetrable darkness came a sense of disorientation. Brady held Sasha close to him. Though the interior of the cave was utterly black, he closed his eyes. He'd never practiced meditation, but he suspected it was something like this, an emptiness, a feeling of being suspended in space, not knowing which way was up and which way was down. If you ask me, not knowing which way is up and which way is down is due to cause some disorientation, but if that works for you, go ahead. And apparently his space worked for Brady. The lack of light, and with the little amount of air that they got, he breathed slowly, and he was trying to rid his mind of the image of the victim in the trunk, covered in blood, and her lips were grey, with one of her nails broken off, which made Brady think that maybe the victim had struggled and perhaps she was alive, not completely like dead yet, from the stab wound when she was thrown into the trunk, which kind of make it a little worse if you ask me. Holding Sasha, Brady took in a breath of Sasha's perfume, which is, if you remember from the previous chapter, is like a ripe peach, which Brady seems to like. That's a perfume that he liked. So he took a deep breath of Sasha's fragrance to try to relax himself and to just think about the crimes, and to try to see if he can find answers, or to just basically quiet down the chaos that was happening in his mind. However, no matter how he tried, he couldn't get rid of the dull and empty eyes of the victim. He couldn't get rid of the state that the victim was in, and perhaps, just perhaps, this was supposed to be because Brady needed to find answers so that he can give justice to the victim and put the killer in jail, and basically protect Sasha at the same time. On the other hand, Sasha found the darkness a bit creepy, so he asked Brady to turn on a flashlight and just maybe try to think with the light on, because, well, not everybody likes darkness in a cave that they don't know. Which makes sense. Turning on the flashlight, Brady looked down at Sasha, and basically, since it was dark and Sasha was right in front of him, he got to concentrate on her features even more. And her wide blue eyes and rose petal lips was basically like a temptation to him. Before the intention had fully formed in his mind, Brady kissed Sasha. And here it is, guys. Like I said, there was going to be an emotional turn point. And this here, chapter 10, page 2 of chapter 10 basically is where the first kiss happened. Let's see what happens after the kiss, or how she responds. Her slender body nestled against him just the way he had imagined it would. Even through layers of clothing, they fit together perfectly. He glided his free hand around her throat to the nape of her neck, where his fingers tangled in her silky hair. He tasted her mouth again, so sweet. He shouldn't be kissing her, but he had no regrets. When they separated, his gaze held hers for a long time. Long moment, but I prefer time, okay? In the damp, mysterious atmosphere of the cave, they shared a silent communication. The attraction that was building between them, didn't need words. And from that we can see she didn't push him back. That was one of her wishes, to get to kiss him, and he kissed her, so that was happened. But now it was time for them to get back to the real world, since they had an investigation to get into, and they couldn't really dive into what possible relationships they could have, since they are working a case and Sasha is his witness. So there's that complication there. So they decided to leave the cave and go back outside to try to figure out the ATV issue, and they needed to go back to the ranch. Brady straightened his shoulders. He had to make the best of a bad situation with a sheriff who couldn't tell his ass from a hole in the ground, and a killer who's always several steps ahead. No matter how he wished he had been better trained for a homicide investigation, Brady had to work with the tool he'd been given. So Brady decided that after the dude ranch, they will go back to the hotel where Sasha will have the opportunity to look at the surveillance tape so that she could try to identify who the killer is from the lobby. Remember where she felt like somebody was watching her? So I'm assuming that's what he meant, and basically maybe try to see from all of the several floors if they can find someone who looks like the killer. Given that Brady's number one priority was to protect Sasha, he didn't want to drag her deeper into the investigation, so he suggested that maybe she should go back to Denver if she can, and that when they will be going to the hotel, he will talk to Jacobson so that he can get more insight into the investigation, and to try to keep Sasha out of the investigation as much as possible. But Sasha, being Sasha, said that she is not gonna go back to Denver, but her job is there, and she needed to do her job while trying to get the killer off the street. So that's what she wanted to do, and she wasn't going to take no for an answer. While they were driving to Jim Birch Dude Ranch, Brady noticed that Sasha was staring at him. And given that Sasha was usually a chatty person who liked to talk through things, he really hoped that she wouldn't bring up the kiss that happened in the cave. Because as far as Brady was concerned, they should leave it right where the kiss happened, the cave. Like they say, what happened in Vegas, stay in Vegas. And for this one, what happened in the cave, stays in the cave. When Sasha cleared her throat, Brady braced himself, thinking that he's gonna be questioning her. He's thinking that she's gonna be questioning him, trying to figure out the meaning behind the kiss, why he kissed her, and all that jazz. And being a honest man, Brady was gonna tell her the truth, that he liked her and that the kiss seemed like the right thing to do at the time. But Sasha surprised him by asking, what do people do at the dude ranch? Basically not even bringing up the topic of the kiss, which good self-control, Sasha. And at the dude ranch, people get the Old West experience, such as riding horses and eating beans and burgers from a chuck wagon around a fire. And the owner, Jim, also plays guitars and sings, which, as Sasha mentioned, sounds like an old western movies. At the ranch, Brady parks his SUV at the side of the long Burke house. Together, he and Sasha walked towards the main house where Jim and his other buddy was drinking and just talking about. And given that it was a little chilly outside, Brady presumed that Jim's wife just shooed him out of the kitchen so that she can have some quiet time to cook because, space, man, space. Jim Birch was big and tall, and everything about him was boisterous, from his thick red mutton chop sideburns to his silver rodeo belt buckles, the size of a serving platter. Also, Jim Birch was very loyal to his wife, but at the same time, he was very flirty to other women. But I guess that's just business, because he owned a dude ranch and that was basically customer service. That's my assumption here. Brady questioned Jim about whether there was families who were staying at the ranch and who used the ATV on the same day. Jim answered that only one family was staying and the rest were just visitors. At the same time, he mentioned that Sam Moreno was interested in buying the ranch for his own ashram stuff. And there was another member of the Arcadia project who was interested in buying out the ranch. So far, he didn't mention who the other member is. He just mentioned that Sam Moreno and his followers were one of the members that was interested in the ranch. And on the same day, Sam Moreno and his followers had rented ATVs to just play around with, to go down the snowy mountain and stuff like that. So that puts him a bit higher on the killer's list because he was in the place on the same day. And well, he still had motive. So let's see what happens. And apparently there was still some of Moreno's men in the ranch because he had mentioned that some of Moreno's men was making sure that the food met all the organic standard of the guru, which meant he is still around. And sitting at the dining room table with Jim Birch, Brady started talking with Jim, which basically made Sasha kind of like the third wheel because she didn't have much to say except give updates on what Julie is gonna do after he sells his place, which Sasha mentioned he's gonna still be ranching, which was good news for Jim and Brady. But other than that, Sasha didn't have much to contribute, so she decided to leave the table to answer some emails. And my assumption is that there's going to be some problems, perhaps, because Moreno's is still there, and Sasha had left the periphery of Brady, so I'm thinking maybe the killer is in the ranch right now, so there might be some issue later on. But that's just me presuming. I'm not really sure of it. Though as soon as Sasha left the table, Jim gave Brady a grin and wiggled his eyebrows. "You're sweet on her. She's a witness. And a pretty young woman," he said. "Is there anybody else you're seeing right now?" Brady glared at the grizzly old man with red sideburn. "Who do you think you are? Dr. Field of the Wild West?" "If you ask me, that's a pretty funny quote right there." But Brady didn't want to discuss his personal life with Jim, especially with Sasha just somewhere around. Interestingly enough, while talking with Jim, Brady discovered that Andrea Tat, who was Reinhardt's assistant, or rather black-haired companion more than assistant, was the real estate lady for Jim, since he was quietly shopping around and didn't actually put a for sale sign outside. So that was a very interesting link, especially since Jim had known Andrea for a couple of years when she showed up during the Arcadia development talk. So he had a couple of years of working with her. Andrea was looking around for more property that could be used for condos, and given that the Dude Ranch and the acres attached to it was not really suitable for skiers, This place was good because of the distance from the Redstone Creek, because it was about 20 minutes from here in good weather, which was a good place for condos. When Sasha came back into the room, her mouth was tight and twin worry lines appeared between her eyebrows. "That was the property manager at the condo," she said. "There has been a break-in." Now it's getting more interesting. So the killers know where she lives, which is dangerous. So I'm assuming from here, and given from other books I've read, that's about the same genre like this. I'm assuming Sasha is going to be staying with Brady from now on. Hearing the news, Brady put Sasha's problem first and dropped trying to investigate Moreno and basically drove to Sasha's condo to try to investigate the breaking and see what happened, how much damage there was. On the way to the apartment or condo, Brady used the police radio on his console to contact the sheriff and tell him about the breaking and his change of plans. But after a quick discussion, Sheriff McKinley decided that he will let the security company at the condo to investigate the break-in, to dust off for fingerprints and just try to get any forensic evidence so that Brady could concentrate on other things, because remember their manpower was pretty spread across and they didn't have much to go on to. And even though Brady didn't look happy about the decision, he had no choice but to accept it. When Brady ended the call, after getting confirmation from the sheriff that the body was actually Lawrence Robbins from Denver, his jaw was tight. The moment of calm they had experienced in the cave had been replaced by a new layer of tension. Sasha wished she could say or do something to relax Brady or to just help him, but the situation seems to be becoming more and more frustrating. The sweet point, however, is even though the situation was getting more complicated, Brady was basically cornered with everything happening. He still took the time to ask Sasha how she was doing, or if she was okay and how she's holding up, which it was pretty sweet of him, if you ask me. Wondering if she should contact Damien to let him know about the breaking and what was actually happening, especially since Damien had asked Sasha to stay away from the investigation and to just concentrate on her work for his company. A thought crossed over her mind, which I'm assuming kind of scared her, since she asked, what if Brady had dropped her off at the condo instead of taking her with him to the crime scene. Brady's brows tightened. "I don't want to think about it." Was the intruder after me? "The breaking wasn't a coincidence," he said. "I don't care what the sheriff says or how stretched our manpower is. Until this is over, you are my assignment. I'm your bodyguard 24/7. Remember? That's our deal." Which rose the question of whether or not Brady was going to be staying over at Sasha's condo, which basically made Sasha's heart skip a beat, even though part of her was scared because of the breaking in of the killer. But at the same time, she was happy that Brady will be staying with her. Brady asked Sasha to tell him everything that the property manager told her over the phone so that he could get a timeline of what happened or what he should be expecting. And even though the property manager had given Sasha a specific time, Sasha could not remember it since, get the shock from hearing that will make you forget something, so I don't blame her for it. And that's basically human behavior if you ask me. But apparently Sasha kind of like blamed herself because she wanted to remember every detail but apparently could not. So that was that complication there. But she mentioned that the property manager had went directly to the condo right after she had gotten notified about the alarm. So I'm assuming like maybe it took her about 3 minutes top. So, but still it doesn't give us like the right time for now. And the manager had said that there was no damage that she could notice, and that she was waiting for Sasha to come back so that she could file a report. How did the intruder get in? They picked the lock on the balcony door. She clenched her laptop to her chest. I'm glad I had my computer and the Arcadia files with me. Well, woman, you just got your house broken in and then you're worried about your freaking computer and your work files. If it was your book files like I have, I would be worried too. God, this is the one thing I'm worried about. Brady glanced over at her. To enter through the balcony, the intruder would have had to climb up the side of the building to reach the 3rd floor. That's crazy, she said. Who will do that? A ninja? In spite of the tension, he chuckled. Yeah, that's it. You're being stalked by ninjas. And she hoped it left some kind of a clue. You gotta like that, despite even with the situation that they are in and how complicated it is, Brady can still crack jokes, which makes him a little bit more perfect in my book. If you're able to crack jokes and just take, I don't think take things lightly. It's just you don't try to make a problem look even darker, if I can say like that. It's just sometimes you gotta just crack a joke and just take a step back and just come back at the problem in a different light. But that's it for chapter 10, and I'm not sure what's gonna happen for chapter 11, but I look forward to read it with you guys. But until next time, please do like this video, subscribe, and click on the bell notification to receive to get notified, not to receive, to get notified whenever I post a new video. But until then, big kisses.